Mesa Ranch in northern Utah. It is considered the epicenter of the strangest and most disturbing phenomena on Earth. Animal mutilations, bizarre UFO sightings, and unusual energies that have proven harmful to humans. For 20 years, the federal government tried to find answers and failed. Now, a new team of dedicated scientists, researchers, and experts has taken over. They are determined to solve the mystery and reveal the secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
Welcome to Against All Oddities, the podcast about three brothers coming to terms with the oddly true and the truthfully odd. On today's episode, we focus on the notorious Skinwalker Ranch in the deserts of Utah. Been there, done that, you say? Well, hold on to your mysteriously mutilated horses for just 1 second. Not only do we talk about the mysterious phenomenon that is Skinwalker Ranch, we went the extra couple of thousand miles and camped out there on location and lived to tell the tale. In this episode, we talk about the lore surrounding this nefarious location, but we also spend an equal amount of time roasting the place with our unique brand of humor. We also talk about aliens, cover-ups, and ranch dressing of all things, so saddle up and keep your eyes pointed at the skies because this is Against All Oddities.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, this is Against All Oddities, where we talk about weird, strange, paranormal, odd, and bizarre things that we just really like or don't like or find interesting. I'm youngest brother Tim.
Middle brother Chris.
Nate.
And so we're going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch, which a lot of TV docuseries and documentaries and podcasts have all covered at length.
Can we expand that though to not just Skinwalker Ranch, also the missing plane, also UFOs?
So anyway, so this month's episode is going to start with Skinwalker Ranch because Nate actually went there
recently
with our niece Nate's daughter
/ Against All Oddities intern.
So just to catch up, Chris or Nate, have you done anything interesting in the past month?
Well, I drove 2,000 miles with a 4-month-old.
Anyway, Nate, what have you been doing? I just bring up Nate because whatever Chris went through was a nightmare worse than anything you will find at Skinwalker Ranch.
I mean, truly, it was. We drove 2,000 miles with a 4-week-old. That was a fucking cakewalk compared to a 4-month-old.
A 4-month-old knows how to complain.
A 4-month-old is like aware of
a 4-month-old has wants and needs, and 2,000 miles in a car is not one of them.
Yeah. No, it was horrible. And
but you're both back in Louisiana.
Yeah, back in Louisiana. We arrived.
All three of you. I say you both. You and Meredith survived the trip.
And Rowan. Yeah, we survived the trip. We arrived home and it was 105 degrees outside. Not heat index. That's the standard temperature.
Lovely.
I remember I was driving on the highway to the stretch before we get home, and I was like, why does it look like fall here? And Louisiana is always green, like always, winter, summer. And I was like, why is it fall colors? And I was like, oh, all the pine trees on the side of the highway caught on fire and the heat roasted. So the trees that were black and pencils, they caught on fire, but the heat made all the pine trees turn brown. So it was like this weird fall landscape coming into it's kind of a hellscape where I am right now. And because of the baby, I'm in the garage, and it was 102 degrees today, and I'm inside my unair conditioned garage.
Wait, why are you? Oh, so you can be loud without waking him up.
I actually can't be too loud because the garage is outside his bedroom window, but I can't be inside the house and talk to you guys. Anyway,
I've noticed you adjusted your laugh from haha to no, that's funny.
I'm gonna have an aneurysm by like containing my laughter. Anyway, that's all I got. Nate, what are you doing? I mean, Nate's update is kind of the subject of today's podcast. Tim, what's your updates before we
all right,
go on
I'm going to
tonight?
speed update this because there's a lot to say about a lot of it. The hobby that I'm pursuing right now is growing some mushrooms. It's a lot of fun. We went up to Alicia's parents' house with the kids, and they live in the middle of 350 acres, which is awesome. A lot of it's been timbered, but there's a fresh fallen oak. I say fresh, it was probably 3-4 weeks ago, which is what you want for mushrooms, a hardwood that's not like infected by other things. So I took a chainsaw and I was standing on the tree as I was cutting a different part of the tree, and Jack was watching me, and I was like, hey, Jack, whatever I'm doing, this is how you don't do it, okay? Because when I got the first bit of weight off, it went while I was holding a chainsaw going.
Oh, he'll have
but
memories.
I got 5 1 to 2 foot logs off, and Jack tried to pick one up, was like, yeah, I can't carry it, and he left, which was okay because he's a kid and I'm not going to ask that from him. Each log weighs probably 40 pounds, and
yeah,
I had to get 5 of them out. And it's not just like I'm walking out of the woods. The woods were a 90-degree angle up for about 40 yards because this was
sounds like a Spartan race.
The only time a Spartan race came in handy, but it was 5. So anyway, I'm growing shiitakes. 4 of the logs are shiitakes.
And one of the logs is the left-hand path mushrooms?
I wouldn't know how to get a hold of those. Maybe I would. I'm not going to tell you about it. I wouldn't. No, one of them, the big 2.5-3 foot log that I got, the giant one, is chicken of the woods. And it's called that because it tastes like chicken and it's a mushroom. Both of those.
It also is really good deep fried. But I was just coming, I drove 2,000 miles from Maine. It rained every day in Maine. The mushrooms were crazy. There was probably 100 pounds of chicken in the woods 20 feet from my house.
Did you get some of it?
Like
did you eat it?
It was 20 feet in the air. It was growing on this tree, but I would stare at it all day. I was like, that's like 3 grocery stores worth of chicken.
I mean, that stuff is pretty like it's maybe 10 to $20 a pound. If you find the right restaurant. And one thing I'm going to do this year is late winter, early spring is morel season. Nice. I'm going to try to get some, not just to eat, but to you mix it with a slurry, and then you grow essentially the mushroom, whatever it's called. Slurry is the only name I can think of, and then you can divide it a bunch of stuff, and you go pour it out in your woods, and you wait 1 to 2 years, and then your woods will grow morel mushrooms. Nate, updates. This is what's going on here? You went to Skinwalker Ranch. That's wait, no, Nate.
Oh, you want to know about the TV show?
Shut up, both of you. Who wants to define Skinwalker Ranch? Chris, because Nate's going to talk. Chris, what is Skinwalker Ranch?
I did a lot of research. It is a ranch that contains a barn with animals, vineyards, a garden with fruits and vegetables, used an on-site restaurant, outdoor swimming pool,
Chris,
fitness center.
That is a normal ranch.
Oh, I believe there's a man-made Ewok lake there. A 300-seat theater called the Stag. That's Skinwalker Ranch, right? I don't think George Lucas lives there anymore. I think it's just his offices.
I don't know what you're referencing to play along with the joke anymore.
No, you're talking about Skywalker
Ranch.
Oh. All right. Here, hold on, Chris. Shut up.
That's pretty fucking funny.
Chris, shut up. All right, I'm going to define what a Skinwalker is then. All right, Nate, you confirm this. But somebody that weighs no pounds at all, like they're 6'4" and 98 pounds, and they just won't shut up. Just words keep pouring out of their mouth. And you say, no, Tim, that's Thin Talker Ranch.
Oh, that's terrible.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
I don't even think that's kind of funny.
A Skinwalker is somebody that's like a law enforcement officer that sometimes plays by their own rules and once jump kicked a dude through the car windshield to stop them from going on.
That's Texas Walker.
Texas Ranger Ranch. I'm just kidding. So no. This one actually. So what I'm talking about is somebody like myself, that likes to take birds of prey and hunt with them. It's Tim Hawker Ranch.
Jesus Christ, man. That's
all right. Here's the worst.
This is why. Okay.
All right. So what we're talking about is when you take a 0% fat milk and you make a milkshake with like Whoppers in it. I'm thinking of Skim Malter Ranch.
Oh, God. I can't tell if you've given a punchline or not. These are so
bad. I know. Who wants to actually really quickly? Because everyone knows what Skinwalker Ranch is.
All right, now, Nate, what is a Skinwalker and what is Skinwalker Ranch?
I'm actually curious about this because I know what a Skinwalker is, but I feel like Skinwalker Ranch, it's not really named after skinwalkers. Am I right? Or like
kind of. So
like to me, skinwalkers were always like a Native American like folklore thing.
And I think it's offensive for non-Native Americans to tell the tale, which all white people do on things like podcasts and TV shows.
Yeah, so we won't do that.
But that's like their culture.
But also like that's not Skinwalker Ranch. Like Skinwalker Ranch is more, it's like aliens.
I'd say my definition of Skinwalker Ranch is it's a hot spot of
paranormal
UAP
activity.
stuff, paranormal things. So not just Skinwalker experiences, which it's named after, but also UAP experiences. And it's in Salt Lake City or outside of, it's somewhere in Utah or whatever. And it's it's a ton of acres because it's a ranch, and weird shit happens there to the point that it's become a tourist attraction and a point of TV shows.
Well, I mean, isn't that part of the history of Skinwalker Ranch? And we can talk about that a little bit, but like it was bought out by a company and is kind of marketed as such, right? Like Nate, that's why I want to know your story. Like, how did you go there? Why did you go there? And what happened there? Like, so Nate recently went there.
Yep. Let me get one fact straight before I say it for the history because it totally is a Native American origin story.
It is. Okay. Well, obviously I know the Skinwalker stories, or we've been telling them since we were kids, even though that's probably not correct. You know, like I remember the first time I heard it was they're talking about it like maybe it was outside of Richmond on the Pocahontas Expressway. And like they were saying that's like haunted, and you'd see skinwalkers maybe on the side of the road on that highway.
Oh wait, isn't it when the lights are very low and then the pitcher goes to throw a pitch but stops halfway through, which is considered a foul?
I think that's something else, Tom.
It's a dim bulker. Ranch.
No.
All right, anyway, go ahead, Nate.
I first heard about the Skinwalker Ranch on Astonishing Legends, and they did this huge 3-part series, which is way back maybe 10 years ago, or it's not, maybe 2015 or 16, I think they did it. And it's this huge in-depth thing of the history, and they go into details and talk to people, and it's worth listening to. Mm-hmm. It's better than anything that I've seen, and you know, I've heard
that's the Astonishing Legend podcast.
Yeah, the podcast. They did a great in-depth thing on it, and it was really fascinating. From some of the stories, and a few of them that really stuck with me was this family. There was a original family that lived there, and then another family bought it. They were these cattle farmers, but weird stuff would happen. Like they would see a giant wolf like walk up and like like the family was like patting this giant wolf, and the dad was like, what? And then it like walked over and reached its a calf's head was near the pen or whatever. It grabbed the calf's head and started pulling it. He shot it with a sidearm. He had a 38 or something, and he shot it, and it didn't do anything. Yeah, and then he got his this is I'm leading up because of a guy that I talked to that gave you a tour, and then the guy went to his truck and got a 30-06 and shot it, and like a tuft of fur came off, and then it just let go of the calf, stared at him, and then like walked away.
30-06 will take a deer off of all 4 legs.
Yeah, and that's
like,
why
that's
it's
a
like,
lot of power.
Yeah, and then so he runs after it. He goes over the hill, and nothing's there. And so that was like their cattle mutilations.
Yeah.
Like two really weird ones. One was the one that I recall.
This is from the 90s, right?
Yeah, this is in the 90s. In this one of the and we've re-listened. Elle and I actually re-listened to the Astonishing Legends thing, but another part
When
that
you were
stuck
driving there?
afterwards. She didn't know where
afterwards.
we were going. She didn't know.
Oh,
where we were going.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and I have some audio that will play, but hopefully. But the another crazy cattle mutilation was they had in this ranch, and it's in Utah in the desert near Duchesne, and there's some is a Ute land that's kind of surrounding either side of it, but and there's a big kind of a raised cliff and then a lower river part where there's you can have cows and stuff, and that's where it is. But there's a calf and a mama cow were kind of like it was raining and they gotten kind of stuck down in this ravine, and the guy the ranch owner pulled the calf out cowboy style and then took it back to the pen and came back, and it was less than 20 minutes he got back, and the cow was dead where it was laying. It was healthy a minute ago. It just is in the ravine, completely dead, cored out.
Oh,
like from the butt, cored, like in their pictures. And the guy that gave us the tour he knows like the sheriff and animal control person or something came or have to come and look at it, or a forestry service person or something. I don't know. Yeah. But he knows the lady that did it, and she was like, never seen that thing was sucked dry. And like how it happened in 20 minutes. He's like, there was no animal. It was like no blood anywhere. It was just like cored and then shriveled up, like sucked dry. And in 20 minutes, and then a couple
and that's the thing, like this is real, like that happened.
Yeah, there were photographs, you can look it up, police reports. They weren't trying to get attention or anything, right? This family, but so anyway, I knew about this. It always creeped me out. And then here Ella and I were driving she did an internship in Oklahoma and was going back to Idaho where she goes to school. And I was like, well, I'll fly into Denver. You pick me up in Denver from Oklahoma, and then we'll drive and stay at our aunt's and uncle's house and go up. And there's a campsite that I want to go to.
You just said campsite. You didn't tell her you're going to Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, well, I sent her a picture of it, which is pretty. And then it was like, and we'll go see Dinosaur National Park, which I really want to see. That's national, which is right next to Skinwalker Ranch, by the way. It's like
also cool.
Like 30 miles away.
It's like a land Nessie.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a forgotten dinosaur that's still running around.
And the Dinosaur National Park is where like the Earth's different layers kind of lifted up flat, and they found it in the 20s, and there's just giant strips of all kinds of dinosaur bones just wedged in there. And they left some of them.
Yeah, I've seen Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
no, wait, that's in Montana. The opening scene with the raptor.
Yeah. No, this is like it's an enclosed area, so it doesn't get washed away. But you could go touch the dinosaur bones, and they're all over the place. So it's a weird area. So anyway, she didn't know, and then we drove up, and so Skinwalker Ranch, which is this big, I can't remember, 400 or 500 acre ranch. They have neighbors, and the neighbors have lived there forever. Like the guy where we camped, what happened is eventually the guy, he's a truck driver, and his wife was like, we have got to do something. This is when the show came out a couple of years ago, I guess, and she was like, we have got to start giving
tours. This is a show that's on the Discovery Channel?
Yeah, it's on the Discovery Channel, and I can't, when we got home I watched an episode, but it's really interesting because so it's kind of like in a hollow, right, like Skinwalker Ranch where the river is, and these guys own or lease all the land that's on the ridge that runs along it.
Oh, so they're the ones with the front row seats.
Yeah, exactly. And then so they've been threatened, and so I got the whole story, but they've been threatened, and it's not much of a campsite. It's like maybe 8 campsites, and then they have 3,500 acres. Like their neighbors even let them continue on, and so you could kind of just walk along that ridge and just look down at the Skinwalker Ranch, or if they're filming the show, they'll wave at them and stuff. But they get really mad, and they keep threatening them about
who's getting mad here?
the show people, because
Are
they're
getting
all
mad because
they're
there's
trying to
campers
film,
watching
and
them?
they'll have like a couple of campers like taking pictures and stuff. So they said no more taking pictures, but
Only we can experience Skinwalker Ranch, not you.
Yes, exactly. But they so the rule is you can take selfies, and that's totally legal because you're the subject matter, or taking a picture of somebody else, but it can't be just of Skinwalker Ranch was, I guess, like the workaround. So you'll see all the pictures I'll show you.
Oh, because Skinwalker Ranch is owned by a company now, not
yeah, well, it's owned by a dude, but he's trying to
he's like licensing stuff, and
yeah, he wants to make some money.
yeah.
So it's just you pull up, there's some farm equipment. It looks like desert, can't really see anything. It's big sky, which is fun. And I paid him the $100 to take the UTV tour, which lasted forever. I could have.
It was worth the $100 then.
Oh,
It was like an all-day thing.
No, it was all afternoon. We got there around 4, and it was.
How long was the tour? Like 4 hours?
It was supposed to be an hour and a half, but it was just like indefinite. You know, it just he just kept he was hanging out. He doesn't usually give the tours, his wife does, but it was a Saturday, and he was, you know, he's home from work, and he was like, I don't know, you guys want to do a tour? Let's do it. And he is a super nice guy, and his stories were cool because he's lived there his whole life, and his father has lived there the whole time. See this beautiful selfie in my dinosaur hat, and then but behind it you can see Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, nice.
So you can't. These are each like, you know, different parts. I don't know. He kept referencing the show, and I was like, I've never seen the show here. But I know the gist of a lot of the stories. And he had some like wild binoculars. You could look down there and see the houses, and everything's abandoned now.
I like how the show is so extraordinarily narrowly bullseyed into our demographic of interest, but none of the three of us have seen
interest in it,
nor do we want to watch it.
Well, it's like,
which I can't explain. Otherwise, I like Skinwalker Ranch, but those shows are just like Ghost Hunters.
They're
it's
garbage.
all
They're garbage.
Drama.
I can't do it. I don't like
stuff.
Expedition X. I don't like the Oak Island thing. I watched a couple of those.
I can't do that.
It's horrible.
It's like
I can't do it.
Oh, it's I don't know what the right word is. It's just the least climactic show on the planet. What is this? And they show like a dead salamander or something.
What's that burial mound? So Nate's showing a picture of his daughter and himself selfieing with Skinwalker Ranch in the background. What's that burial mound that's behind you?
Oh, I don't know. It's just desert rock bullshit.
Rocks.
Covering up a spacecraft.
Hey, what are the things called when you bury like a person and they're all domed over? It has a name. It was in Lord of the Rings in the very beginning, where the barrows.
Oh, barrow.
Because the barrow rite was the thing, the ghost that kidnapped all the hobbits and put a sword over their necks and then like brought out of freedom or whatever. Or Tom Bombadil, one of them.
Nerd alert!
Anyway, yeah, let's talk about something cool like Skinwalker Ranch.
So, but his stories were interesting. You talked about, it's like, did you ever see anything as a kid? Because he like lived here, right?
Yeah.
It's
before the 90s.
Oh yeah, and so this guy Ken or somebody owned it, like that was older than his parents, and he said, well, his parents, his dad and his uncle before he was born, when they were living there, would help the guy get his hay in, you know, and they'd take horses or just go over there and help him. This would probably, my guess, be in the 60s or whatever, early 70s, maybe 70s. And they'd help him get his hay up and eat dinner or whatever, but they would shoo him out of the house and have him go home. They're like, you can't be in the ravine after dark. I was like, why? And he's like, I don't know. They just weren't allowed. As a kid, you just weren't. You couldn't go into near the ravine after dark. And he was like, my uncle's still alive. You know, I'm gonna ask him the next time I see him. I'm gonna ask him why they couldn't go down there in the dark. But he said everyone was frantic when it was getting dusk. Like, get out, get home before it gets dark. You can't be.
Yeah, see, that's suspicious.
Yeah. It's cool and it's nonchalant. No one ever questions it. You know, like, okay. Yeah. And then later he sold it. He sold the land. That guy left and sold it to the guys in the 90s who had all the paranormal experiences with their family.
Yeah. And
then later they sold it. They left. There might have been an intermediate guy, and then Bigelow bought it. from Bigelow Space Industries, who's into all this stuff, right? And then he had all these guard shacks. I don't know if I emailed myself a picture of it, but had all these guard shacks and watchtowers and stuff and cameras everywhere to film stuff. And the government was kind of there. And there's a new book, I haven't read it yet, called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. And two of the government people that were checking out stuff here went back, but the paranormal poltergeisty stuff followed them to DC. That's why it's called Skinwalkers in the Pentagon. And the weird stuff like the latches, like all this, people. It's a weird place, and the houses. It was odd because like all the cabinets had latches, and he's like, well, you stop, cabinets from going up and in and out, but they had latches on both sides of every door, on both sides of the cabinets and stuff. Like, why are latches on the inside and outside? Like, it's weird. So weird. Like some of the stuff. Anyway, the TV show guy eventually owns it, and you can watch the first episode like me, and it'll kind of explain what they're doing. I don't think they'll get sued for letting people camp and walk around and take pictures. And give tours, because they're always launching rockets. And I think I don't know if I have a picture here, but it's like all these big rockets keep landing in his yard where they do experiments of launching rockets up, and they'll just like crash into his property and stuff. So he doesn't think he's good. I hope not.
But, that's interesting.
If he gets in trouble.
So you guys were there, you spent the night. Like, did you see anything? Like, what was that like? Or was it just like camping?
Well, it was just like camping. It was a normal campsite. One interesting thing about the tour is it's on a UTV and up and down. And I was, we had just got there and kind of decided to go on the thing. It felt like I was kind of nauseous about it, like the whole time, and I never get car sick. Yeah, but I was like car sick in that thing. And after, we're going into it, and after a while, I was like, I just want to go back to the campsite. I don't want to be here anymore. I mean, I appreciate the stories and stuff, but it's like really making me a little woozy. Apparently that's the number one thing at Skinwalker Ranch, is feeling woozy.
You just get nauseous being there?
Yeah, you feel nauseous and don't want to be there anymore. And I got like a mild taste of it. Maybe it was the Jimmy John's sandwich I had for lunch.
Never. Jimmy John's has never done you wrong before.
Yeah, maybe it was the Jimmy John's, or maybe it's a UTV ride. But usually I'm always doing off-road stuff. It was just odd that I just, after like an hour and a half, I was like, I don't feel great. I just want to go back and sit at the campsite.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which I didn't think about until we left. I was like, that's kind of weird. But there's some other campers around us, and we talked to a couple of them. The new iPhone takes pretty good star pictures. I saw a bunch of satellites. This thing freaked me out until I realized it was a telephone pole. Because I was like pitch black, and I was trying to.
So Nate does have a black and white picture of a UFO beaming up a cow or something, but when he says telephone pole, that's a telephone pole.
Yeah. And so, but it was kind of cool. There's some clouds came by, but the stars are pretty. The coolest thing I saw was a meteor break through the clouds, and I didn't get a picture of that. It was off in the distance, and it was just a streak. I was like, ooh, meteor! And then it like popped through the other side of the cloud, and then there's like little orange glow.
That's awesome.
Like it hit the ground or something. I was like, ooh. And then Ella came out because she had gone to bed, and then she came back out. And I went to bed, and she said she saw a few more shooting stars, but nothing crazy. And then in the morning, we had these stale donuts, so I stuffed a marshmallow in it and roasted it over a fire.
Nice. Classic.
Yeah. So
well, that's still awesome. I love that you like took your daughter to the Skywalker Ranch but didn't tell her.
Skinwalker Ranch.
No, the campground, it's called UFO Valley Campground and UTV Tours. And then on their homepage you could actually see them talking to like a giant group. It was just me and Ella and the dude in one of those things.
Yeah, see, that's awesome.
And then that's an old Bigelow guard shack down there that you can see. But
that's awesome.
It was really fun. And we talked when we got back, I was talking to the wife about like, have you seen some weirdos? And she's like, 1 out of 10 we get all 17s. And she's like, we get podcasters and stuff, but the first one, they hadn't even gotten it approved by the county yet or whatever, their business license they just gotten. And she kept this guy, some famous, I wrote his name down, I'll find it and we can post a link. He's some psychic, and he kept saying, I must come there, I must come there. And she was like, talk to the city, and they're like, just don't call us anymore. Sure, you can camp on your property. We don't give a shit. And so he came and camped, and she was trying to take him over to the Skinwalker Ranch party. He's like, no, 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 no. I wasn't called there. I was called to here.
Oh, weird.
And he was like, she said he had this GoPro camera and just wandered around talking and gibberish and stuff to himself. And so, but apparently he has a YouTube channel and stuff. I'll try to find it. Maybe they have some stuff. And then this other lady, she had some weird drawings of sketches, and she said she would speak in tongues and just like meditate and blah, 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 and then draw as she's doing that, draw the spirit she was talking to, which I didn't. It's
You
not
didn't
worth
do
it.
it. You didn't do it,
It's
no.
not worth it. But it was kind of fun to hear about the weird people that come. But most of the people I saw were just kind of like, yeah, it's like, why not like camp there? It's, if you look at it's very affordable. $40.
$40 a night for tent camping. Nice.
Yeah, not bad. It's about the same for everything. And
Or RV camping if you have an RV, $40 a night. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's $40 a night just to hang out on their property.
yeah, and if you're going to the Dinosaur National Park anyway, might as well, like
I agree.
why
Skinwalker, I
not?
think, is actually more interesting, but it's differently interesting.
Yeah, so there we go.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you got I mean, that's cool. I'd like to think that you went out there for us, but
I also like that if you talk about people in the community, and by community, I mean either podcasters or paranormal people or odd stuff, and like, hey, you know about Skinwalker Ranch, right? And you can be like, yeah, I mean, I've been there or whatever. I slept on the ground, but I mean, what do you think? What do you think about it? What did you learn about on the internet or your TV show? Yeah, tell me about your TV show. I've been there, but what?
But it's cool if you look at the TV show. That's all you see is the brown part behind them, and it's so the green on the map. All the green stuff is Skinwalker Ranch, and then all the deserts. This guy and his neighbor's property that
awesome.
they drive around on. So.
All right, so
wait, to polish it off, one thing we didn't touch on was the origin of the Skinwalker and what that is, and why the place is cursed and everything. And the legend is, and it's like I was saying, there's Ute land on either side, right? There is some dispute, which this is probably they're saying not true, because it wouldn't work like this. But during one of the wars, the Navajo cursed the Ute with a Skinwalker, and a Skinwalker was like a bad shaman who can change shape or whatever, but they're also out. The problem with the Skinwalkers, or as described by our tour guide, are all evil, like, because they're out for selfish reasons, whereas a shaman should help the community. They're doing terrible greedy things or killing, or it's just a bad
it would be the shaman. Equivalent of the Western occult black magician versus white magician, black hat versus white hat hackers, like
exactly. And so, but the thing is, it's always a double-edged sword. If you call on one or create one or whatever, you're gonna be screwed. Like,
yeah, it's like working with the Goetia or something. It's like, I'm just gonna call this demon to help me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
sounds like a great idea.
Like, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying, like, it's like some work.
And that's why they said that's not true. It was just made up. However, so the tour guide said also, when I said, did you ever see anything? And they had like a double wide trailer thing he grew up in. He's like, well, when I was like 9 years old, I saw a shadow thing in my backyard, and it was scared the crap out of me. And I talked to my dad as I screamed for him and stuff. He's like, don't worry about it, it's just shadows. And then I never thought about it again. He's like, but it looked exactly, he's like, the best way I think I can describe is staring at one of the things from the movie Ghost, one of the bad things. He's like, it creeped me out. And he's like, and he talked to his friend later as an adult who is a Ute member or whatever, and they have a big, similar to like their farther east of where Skinwalker is, and there's like the big cliffs and stuff like what we were standing on. And he said like, he said, did he have red eyes? And he was like, no. And he was a kid, he's like, no, I didn't see any red eyes. It's like, well, the shadow things that come down for us are all down the cliff are always, it seems like they have red eyes, but they are shadows that come down but it's okay. You do your dance and you like they go away after a while or something like that. Like it was kind of like, yeah, it's a common thing around here. You got to make sure you do the
What if you
right
don't know the
do
dance?
the right dance or protection or whatever. Blow some smoke on them and they'll go away. And I was like, well, yes, where's the card, the info card on in your
Yeah,
little
I need
your
a
sacred
YouTube tutorial.
yeah, and some tobacco and sage or whatever we're using. Which is kind of interesting. I'm glad that there is, that's part of it though. Like you still have
Yeah.
the Native American aspect. So, but that's it. And then we left the next day and traveled north. So,
Well,
Chris, do you have
because
any Walker bombs?
I don't have Walker bombs. I have ranch bombs.
Ranch bomb.
Ranch bomb. Ranch dressing was created in 1949 by a plumber turned cowboy. While working as a contract plumber in Alaska, Steve Henson started cooking for his coworkers and perfecting his buttermilk dressing recipe. 5 years later, he moved to California with his wife, Gail, and bought a ranch. His famous buttermilk dressing soon became a staple at the dinner table of Hidden Valley Ranch, and before long, the Hensons started selling it to guests and local supermarkets. Over 2 decades later, in 1972, the couple sold their name and recipe to Clorox for $8 million. Not bad for a little buttermilk, mayo, and herbs.
Skinwalker
That's my
Ranch. Good ranch bomb.
Ranch bomb. Hey, we didn't say what kind of ranch.
All right, so I'll bring it because I'd say since we didn't do this, we were going to plan to do ranch bombs. Like historically, we've done death bombs and
We interject historical information.
interjection bomb. Like with our roller coasters one, it was like Disney bombs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I only had one. And the only Skinwalker ranch bomb that I could think of was that you can add any sort of adjective with an Emperor Palpatine voice for some reason, and it becomes a fast food menu item. I'll give you a few examples.
I want to hear
Okay.
Crispy Skinwalker Ranch.
that.
Skinwalker Ranch combo.
That's fucking hilarious.
Extra large Skinwalker Ranch.
Like I don't know. It's like something you'd order that comes through a window.
Yeah.
Can I have that sip
Spicy
size?
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, wait. Say it with either a deluxe or not deluxe.
Boneless Skinwalker Ranch Deluxe.
Yes.
Your order is complete.
Order 66 joke, yes.
Wait, you know what the true Sith Lord at the drive-thru wouldn't give you your food. They'll ask you to pull up ahead so they can, like, which is when they say that, I'm like, no. Just bring it. I'm
if you
never
don't mind
getting
pulling into the first parking spot, someone will bring
Yeah.
out
I
your food.
refuse it now. I refuse it. Just so you know,
Yeah.
the last time they were like, hey, can you pull over there? I said, no. I'm in a giant truck and I have no room over there. I'm staying right here. And then the person, like the 16-year-old, started sweating and looking over a couple times. Like, he said he won't move.
Yeah. The last time they forgot about me and I had to go in and get it. Like, I'm never doing that again. Or if there's no one behind you, like, come on. You just
Yeah, it's like, dude, there's no room.
gonna
I'm
have to
staying
look
right here.
at- you
That's
can't
all I say
smoke
now
a
is there's no
cigarette.
room. I'm staying
Yeah,
right here. I don't
But
mind waiting.
could you do that in an Emperor voice?
Please pull up front. Your order will be brought out to you. Your Skinwalker Ranch McDouble.
Your meal's never coming out.
I forgot to put a toy in. Please pull up front.
I was trying to think of any other Skinwalker things. I'm glad you mentioned Astonishing Legends, because that's something people should go listen to. I was listening to recently because I was going on a Euphemet kick, the podcast Euphemet, and the guy who runs that, but he interviewed this guy named Ryan Patrick Burns, who he wrote a book called Utah UFO Ranch. I think it was originally called the Skinwalker Ranch, but I think he got us his cease and desist situation. So now it's called the Utah UFO Ranch book.
That's
But
hilarious.
it was really cool. They kind of he was talking about, I think he maybe works security. He's a paranormal like investigator type guy, but he like actually lived there for a while. and he was telling stories about the shit he saw there, which sounded like a lot to me like the guy who wrote the
Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah, Bledsoe stories about like the like. Yeah, I think Ryan Patrick Burns calls them drones, but they're more like they're like UFO orb things that would chase him around.
Yeah,
the ranch.
they mentioned that the tour guide told a story about the orbs, and then that was also an astonishing legend. But the cool thing, they had a black triangle UFO come out once, supposedly, like,
Yeah.
and it was but it was at night, and then the sky opened up to a blue sky, like a
dimensional shift.
Well, like a portal opened up in the sky, and this like black plane flew out of it and flew off, like, and then it closed back up.
Who was telling that story?
I can't remember. One of the UFO people. That was
that was on Astonishing Legend.
That was Astonishing Legends, and then another guy wanted to meditate there. This was back in the 90s or early 2000s, before Bigelow bought it, and then he went out and meditated, and he got up, and the cowboys, they're all cowboys there, right? So they're just like sitting there staring at this guy that wanted to go meditate out in the field, and then he just started screaming and ran back to him, and they saw something. It said the best thing they could describe was like Predator in the movie, like something walking that had
like cloaking,
like a cloak around it,
That's awesome.
So, which was cool. So all kinds of crazy stuff happened.
And I could not imagine meditating in the desert. I mean, I'm glad that you're alive because of our pale, pasty complexions. Like the idea of like sitting in a desert.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's
also at 6,000.
I mean, desert people would probably say the same about the woods.
It's high desert too. It's like
and there's like
6,000
trees
feet in
and
the air,
stuff. Yeah.
like 6,000 feet up. It's super high up, and apparently in the winters
closer
it gets
to the sun, Nate.
cold. Yeah, true. I mean, I definitely was dried out.
The quest for the Grail is not about archaeology. It is the race against evil. Another option, of course, is to forget about the quest and go buy paranormal insurance at dorfu.com.
If by my life or death I can protect you, I will. You can have my sword.
And you have my bow.
And my axe. And my paranormal insurance from dorfu.com. For just a few bucks, I can protect us from all kinds of stuff, from the likes of ghosts and haints and spooks and who knows what lies up ahead. Just go to dorfu.com and get you some. Orcs, trolls, wizards, enchantments, magic rings, and potions not included.
So one thing that I don't think I came up with this, but I've been thinking about it a lot, is that let's say there's a them, right? The fifth dimensional beings, these aliens that people encounter, even Chris Bledsoe and the UFO of God book and everything, it's lost time, right? So they have the ability to just turn off your consciousness and then turn it back on after you recover from whatever. So they can manipulate consciousness. Why wouldn't they control our entire population through pop culture, since it's what we control, like pay the most attention to in mass? And what I was saying is like Christopher Nolan that directed Interstellar and Villeneuve or whatever that directed Arrival both address nonlinear time communication or nonlinear time just as is. And Marvel and DC are both doing interdimensional theory and explaining it at a child level as like a comic book. What if they are like saying like, do you understand now?
They're like trying helping us as a cultural grapple with the idea of
they're using
multiple dimensions
to draw our pop culture for us by planting these ideas in our head to like.
I'll take it, man.
Well, they've been using Steven Spielberg for years.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, there's,
like he got everything from Close Encounters, which is the best one, I think.
Yeah,
it was good.
E.T. and AI and all that stuff.
But if it's let's say there's multiple faction, the good ones are doing it. They're going to make the bad ones like look like the Predator and aliens, and the aliens could look like Skinwalkers. Or
what about They Live? Another one sees us. Another one sees us.
We gotta see her.
Yeah, so good.
No, it's awesome.
What about this? Did you guys hear about the Peruvian flying?
Yeah, I don't buy the Peruvian stuff actually.
So you think they're gold miners with jetpacks?
I don't believe that they're miners wearing jetpacks. No.
I like how those are the two alternatives. Well, they're aliens or
aliens.
I'm looking at the police report. Police report right here says what was reported as flying aliens were actually miners wearing jetpacks and body armor. So when people shot at them, they didn't kill them.
So real quick, just for our listeners, give us the backstory of this one.
There's a lot of UAP and non-human alien, I'll just say it's not even non-human, just alien sightings in a small town in Peru, right?
10 hours from a city, right? I mean, it's like
in the middle of nowhere.
It's in the middle, but there's a lot of illegal mining on the river and for gold. So illegal gold mining gangs from Brazil come in, or from Colombia, and they said the gangs, there's so much gold that the gangs are paying, like, a jetpack would be like $250,000 jetpack in body armor, and they try to kidnap.
But the stories coming out of there aren't just that they're seeing aliens, that they're people being cut and attacked, and some guy got his skin surgically removed off of his face. But then it showed all this and the problem I have is all this incomplete photographic evidence keeps coming out. And some of the stuff that I see is like, that is a dude wearing a mask. That's definitely not an alien. Like, there's just too many. It doesn't hit the right buttons to say this could be legit. Whereas the MH370 airline, that video, the people were like, this is why it's not real. And people were like, this is why it is real. But it's real enough that you could buy it. Like, I could believe it.
I'm going with the Chris theme of 10% of everything's real. So if you have Peruvian tabloids and Brazil tabloids, they're going to just throw garbage out, constantly. Where I'm not saying that U.S. tabloids wouldn't either.
Because somewhere in Peru, the U.S. is trying to recover like a crashed aircraft, so they're like, look over here, look over here.
Guess what was happening in the area as well? Joint Peruvian and U.S.
military exercises.
Military operations were going on at the same time. So I think that we'll never end the psyop for UFO stuff, real or not. It doesn't matter. You go back to, and what's so super weird is like, the pushback on scientific stuff. It's like, okay, you see a video. I'm not talking about the satellite image, but even there's like I saw a video of Carl Sagan arguing with Hynek about UFOs, and Hynek called him out. It's like Carl Sagan's ripping into him for the UFO stuff. He's like, you are being the least scientific I've ever heard you right now. It's like, if you see something or there's something that you don't understand, you use it, you catalog it, you try to observe it, and you figure out what it is. You just don't dismiss it as trash, because it's like we're in the Middle Ages right now, like laughing at, like, the CIA psyop for Project Blue Book and that stuff just works so well that now people are like, ha 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 ha, whatever, you fool. And the whole time they're being dragged away and chucked in the Soylent Green machine. They don't care. Like, so I think it's going to be a hard slog, and I 100% agree with Tim that it's a consciousness thing. I don't think it needs to be that covert. I think it would be right in the open. You can just say
nothing's real anymore. That's like, there's disclosure because nobody gives a shit. And the people that do give a shit,
is it even disclosure, or they're just not trying as hard?
No, there hasn't been official disclosure.
Like the Grush, whatever, testimony before Congress was approved by the Department of Defense before he said anything.
It had to be, because he went under a whistleblower clause too. Like,
yes, they told him what he could say and not say before he went up there. By the way, same thing. Lou Elizondo, who works for Space Force, by the way, 2017. Like, everybody that seems to be doing it seems to be lock in step with doing, like, procedurally what the right thing to do. And
to be in a position where you can whistleblow on this stuff takes a very specific type of person to excel in these ranks. Like, these are not people that, like, I don't know, are loosey goosey with their like motives and like plans. These, as to quote Hunt for Red October, was it Ruskies don't take a shit without a plan.
Russians don't take a dump, son, without a plan. And senior captains don't start something this dangerous without having thought the matter through.
Like,
Yeah, I love that.
The type of like this high level of military intelligence and like these are like tactical like Air Force pilots. Like these people don't just like break code. Like they do it in for a reason with organized like fervor, and they do it like methodically and materialistically. So of course they have approval.
Maybe it's two. I think there's two factions within the government too. Like,
I'm sure.
Even Joe McMoneagle talking, and he was saying he had some senators saying it's devil's work that's going on, and then another senator will come up and say you're doing God's work, or people gave Nancy Reagan shit for talking to a psychic, and then Reagan had a team of psychics he was talking directly to. It's like
yeah.
It's such a. I think there's different factions too. So like the Grush thing when it came out, that he had like he suffered PTSD from Afghanistan, like as a smear thing was just
but that's not the fact that they're trying to smear him speaks volumes.
But is it they, or is it? I think it's a disconnected group.
I'd say the fact that
some people are saying yes.
I don't think
yes,
there's no being smearing anything. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why I think 10% of everything is true. It means some weird shit is happening, but like we are just a fucking chaotic group of individuals, right? Nothing functions. That's why I'm always like, there's like all like, I like a conspiracy theory, but like these big conspiracies, I just don't believe them because we're the most unorganized, like,
the moon landing to be faked would take 400,000 people to keep a secret.
That's what I mean. Like, we are just the worst at everything. Like, if we were organized in any way as a species, we would have like solved all of our problems like centuries ago. We're not. We are not great as a species. So like, there's just a lot of chaos, just like everything. So I don't think there's any grand manipulation from anywhere, and I don't think there's like beings like helping reveal or unreveal. It's just like, okay, so I think there's some UFO shit going down. I think the government's trying to like stumble through the best way to disclose the fact that they've known about it for some time. And I think the government itself is a chaotic machine of chaos. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so some people know, some people don't know. Like, have you watch like a government try to like clean water in a small town? Like, it's fucking a mess. Like, we can't do anything. It's just like watch Parks and Rec. Like, that's the most like believable sense of like government employees trying their best, not trying their best. It's just like we are an ungovernable mess of like chaos, and so it's hard to see the pattern or like overlay a pattern with how government agencies are working, because it's just like millions of individuals with conflicting interests, conflicting amounts of information, and conflicting amounts of like disinformation. Like, doesn't mean that there's not patterns, it doesn't mean there's not things happening, but like you can't be like, well, it's all an organized plan. Like, I never trust anyone who thinks it's all a big plan.
I don't think it's organized, but I think it's somewhat compartmentalized, and there's a few people that know everything.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there's not information that's being hidden, or like, I'm just saying like it's like the internet, right? Like the internet is all the information of our species is kind of in the internet, but like it's madness, and you can never put it together in a coherent sort of way in order to gain.
No, that's going to be a research project in 1,000 years. Like, hey, could you go back through? Here's a copy of the internet from 2012. Could you go back through and write a report on this? It'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't even know.
Yeah, and money's a driving factor too, which shouldn't be part of it, but it is.
But that's why Grush is there, right? And then somebody brought that up. Like, this whole thing isn't about UFOs and why it's getting congressional.
And again, for our listeners, we're talking about the UFO whistleblower that Grush
testified
Right,
on.
it's
before Congress
there
a
was-
few weeks ago.
Yeah, but the whole point of that was like there's military contractors like Lockheed and Boeing are getting billions of dollars that are disappearing and no one knows where it goes, right? That's what this is really about. And so if you're like, and that's why Grosh, this is a theory by the way that I read, that the reason he had to whistleblow is because if that's worth somebody coming after him. If you just discovered something like $50 billion into black
Disappearing.
projects, because he was the UAP guy trying to find the stuff. If like, wait a minute, where is this money going? You know, all of this to research extraterrestrial craft or whatever. Let's see some receipts. Like, what's going on? That's what happened. It's an accounting error that has caused the congressional thing, and that's what they're going to step on and like zoom in on. Like Congress is like, what money? And they're all going to like, because they hold the purse strings, and that's why they're trying to zoom in on it. And apparently a lot of generals and stuff, like as they retire, they get cushy, weird, like quote unquote jobs for these companies that make millions of dollars or whatever every year. And they're the ones that are like, nope, you can't look into this, you know, because they're trying to protect the money or whatever. I think so. I think there is some conspiracy, but I think it's more individualized, and I think it's more corporate than actual government stuff. And I think that the IRS is going to be the one that actually blows open the whole UFO conspiracy or hiding UFOs and stuff.
What's that sound coming in from the distance? What? Whoa, look who it is. It's the two son of a bitches that always come in looking for free Skinwalker Ranch drinks.
My companion, he's tired with baby, so he doesn't have any jokes. But I got two.
All right, who's got a joke for a Skinwalker? So just to explain, these weary travelers want a drink. That's so hard.
He's got the consumption.
It's hard being
All right,
a medieval part.
you guys want my alcoholic ranch beverage today. Special is Skinwalker Ranch, which is a normal alcoholic ranch drink, but with skin in it. And you gotta tell a pretty fair comedian to get it. So what?
All right, well this one will be Chris's. What salad dressing does Macaulay Culkin prefer?
Okay.
Ranch alone.
Neverland Ranch.
What?
Now I was thinking more along the lines of why was the baker's hands brown?
Nice.
Because he needed a poo.
That's so disgusting. But
All right, so I don't get a ranch drink, but I don't really need one. I'm too tired.
Anyway.
Gross. What does the cowboy wear? Ranch dressing. Sorry, the internet's faded. Those are the best too.
So I'm gonna say this is a failure. You got no visitation rights with the drinks. The skin, you've got no skin in this Walker Ranch game. Anyway, thanks for coming by. That was Skinwalker Ranch. Here's maybe some bardcore if Chris feels like adding it.